Who pays realtor fees, the buyer or the seller? For decades, the answer was easy. The seller paid both agents out of their proceeds, and the buyer never wrote a check. Since August 17, 2024, that answer officially changed. And here's the twist. In practice, in most 2026 deals, the seller still ends up funding both fees anyway. So what actually changed, and why should you care? Because the way these fees get negotiated now is completely different, and the person who pays realtor fees, more than ever, is the person who didn't negotiate. Let me walk you through how it works. Quick history first. Under the old system, the seller signed a listing agreement promising a total commission, usually 5 to 6%, and the listing broker advertised half of that on the MLS as an offer to whatever agent brought the buyer. Sellers paid everything, buyers paid nothing directly, and a lot of buyers never even had a conversation about what their agent earned. That bundled structure is what the antitrust lawsuits went after, and it's what the NAR settlement ended. Two rules now govern every MLS deal. First, buyer-agent compensation can no longer be advertised on the MLS. Sellers can still offer it, but it happens off MLS through negotiation or concessions written into the contract. Second, buyers have to sign a written agreement before touring a home that states exactly what their agent gets paid, and the agent can't collect more than that number. What didn't change? Commissions were always negotiable, and they still are. Sellers were never required to pay the buyer's side, and they still aren't. So what do the numbers look like now? Everyone predicted commissions would crater. They didn't. The national average total commission in 2026 is 5.7%, roughly 2.88% to the listing agent and 2.82% to the buyer's agent. And the buyer's side actually rose from 2.67% in March 2025 to 2.82% in February 2026. On the median U.S. home, $429,300 as of May 2026, that's about $12,360 to the listing side, $10,000 to $12,000 to the buyer's side, and roughly $24,470 total. One pattern worth knowing, rates run higher on cheaper homes, 2.52% under $500,000, and lower on expensive ones, about 2.22% at $1,000 and up. Now here's the part most guides skip: how the money actually moves. Commissions get paid at closing, out of the transaction itself. The buyer's funds land in escrow. The closing agent pays off the seller's mortgage and fees, including any commissions, and the seller gets the rest. The seller never wires anyone money. The fees come out of an inflow, not a bank account. That's why the seller pays always felt painless. But flip it around. If the buyer agrees to pay their own agent, that money comes due in cash at closing, and it generally cannot be rolled into the mortgage because your loan is based on the home's price, not your fees. A 2.5% fee on a median home means finding roughly $10,700 in extra cash on top of your down payment and closing costs. That cash flow reality is exactly why most buyers ask the seller to cover it, and why most sellers, who receive the whole sale price as proceeds, are better positioned to fund it. A few scenarios worth knowing. On new construction, the builder almost always pays your agent a 2 to 3% co-op fee, but most builders require your agent to register you on your very first visit. Tour a model home alone, and you can forfeit representation that would have cost you nothing. On FSBO, there's no listing fee, but represented buyers will still ask the seller to cover their agent, and refusing shrinks the buyer pool. And concessions. Seller credits toward buyer costs showed up in 44.4% of transactions in early 2025, so they're now a primary vehicle for these fees. Just know loan programs cap seller contributions, anywhere from 2 to 9% depending on the loan. Though under current Fannie and Freddie guidance, a seller paying the buyer's agent directly usually doesn't count against those caps. Confirm with your loan officer before you write it into an offer. So, what do you actually do with this? If you're selling, decide your total commission budget early and stay flexible on allocation. Refusing buyer-side compensation outright effectively makes your home more expensive than the listing down the street because most buyers are cash-constrained. If you're buying, your fee negotiation happens up front when you sign the buyer agreement, before you tour anything. That rate is the ceiling your agent can collect, so negotiate it like the 5-figure number it is. Then make the fee part of your offer strategy. Ask the seller to pay it, request a concession, or absorb it yourself to make a cleaner bid on a competitive home. Bottom line, on paper, each side now pays its own agent. In practice, the seller still funds most of it, just through negotiation instead of an automatic MLS offer. About $24,000 on a median home, and every piece of it is negotiable in a way it never was before. Follow me for more home buying and selling tips.